Part three in Selling Investment Property series, Tenants and Rent Control. In this video, we are going to discuss tenants and rent control because those two issues are part of the equation when you sell your investment property. Most likely, your building has tenants. Maybe you have a few vacancies. Maybe your building is 100% full. How the tenants are treated during the marketing and escrow process is really important to having a successful and stress-free transaction. The big question I get from most of my sellers is, should I notify the tenants that I'm going to be selling the building? My answer is always yes. Let them know what's happening. The worst scenario, in my opinion, is the seller that tries to hide the fact that they're selling their building. Tenants hate this. They're going to find out. Why are they going to find out? Well, once the property hits the market and it's in CoStar, LoopNet, the multiple listing service, what's going to happen is you're going to have buyers and agents driving by the property or stopping to get out and walk on the sidewalk, kind of looking around to see what's going on with the property. So tenants are going to see this and they're going to go, what's going on? Why are there people walking around the property all the time? I would rather have you be up front with the tenant and tell them, look, I've decided to sell my building. I'm hiring a realtor. His name is Derek Ruiz. He's going to be contacting you to discuss the sale. What I like to do is to prepare a letter for each individual tenant and email that letter. And it's basically a letter of introduction. I want to let them know that I've been hired by the owner. The property's going on the market. I'm the agent. Here's my phone number. Here's my email address. And I let them know that there's going to be a 24-hour notice for inspections. And I also let them know that I'm going to keep them posted as we progress through the sale so they don't get overly concerned, because the last thing I want is uncooperative tenants. One of my skills is getting the tenants on my side and making them cooperative by being very friendly, very nice, very professional, and letting them know what's happening throughout the process. This puts the tenants at ease and makes my job easier and your job easier, and it's going to help us in the long run. One of the big concerns for the tenants is, are they going to have to move? With rent control in Los Angeles, you can't just kick people out when the building sells. It's illegal. The only thing that's going to change is you're going to be mailing or dropping off your rent check to a different person or different company. I also tell the tenants there's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 times when we're going to have to get in the property during the escrow process. The first time is for a buyer walkthrough once the property goes under contract. The second time is going to be the actual physical inspection when the buyer has an inspector, electrician, plumber, roofer coming in to inspect the property. We might have to do an appraisal and a termite inspection and perhaps a final walkthrough. So there's probably going to be 3 or 4, maybe 5 times when we are going to have to enter your unit for inspections. I also let them know they're going to get a minimum of 24 hours notice, and I'm either going to post a notice on their door or I'm going to email it to them and let them know, hey, next Thursday we have the appraisal. I need to get into your unit. So I'm really proactive at keeping the tenants posted on what's going on. It's really important that I have their cell numbers, their email addresses, and it's also important that I have keys available in case I have to go into their unit when they're at work. Or if you have a property manager, that they can let me in for the inspections. I want them cooperative. I don't want them to be resentful. I don't want them to have any fears that something radical is going to change. With the rent control we have in Los Angeles especially, nothing's going to change. Now, if your building is not in Los Angeles and it's in a non-rent control city, again, you're still under AB 1482 California rent control. So I kind of use the rent control laws to put the tenants at ease, let them know they have protections, they have legal rights, and we're not going to do anything that's illegal or unethical. I want to let the tenants know he's hired me to do the job of getting the property sold. I want to work with you, Mr. and Mrs. Tenant. I want to minimize disruptions in your life. I want to let the tenants know that we're not going to be showing their unit. When I market a building, I write in the remarks inside with accepted offer only. So when an investor is looking at your building, they have to make an offer without inspecting the interior, because I'm not going to be showing the units for your tenants to everybody that comes along. They have to write an offer. It has to get accepted. So I put the tenants at ease that we're not going to be disturbing them on a day-to-day basis. Then I let them know at the close of escrow, I'm going to help transition the management to the new owner of the property, and I'll be working with the tenants and getting them the phone number of the property manager, the new owner, where they're going to mail the check, or if they have auto pay from their checking account, how to get all that set up. So I don't just kind of leave them in the lurch at the close of escrow. I help transition the building and the tenants to the new owner or management team. I'm going to have copies of all rental agreements or leases that you have for all your tenants. If they have any special parking privileges, or maybe you have a separate lease to rent a garage to the tenants, I need all that documentation. And another reason I need the tenants to be cooperative is because the tenants are going to have to fill out a tenant estoppel statement. This estoppel statement is going to memorialize all the aspects of that tenant's tenancy in your property. So on that estoppel statement, I'm going to have the names of all the adults living in the property, how many kids are living there, if they have pets, how much they're currently paying, when their last increase was, what parking spots they have, if any, how much deposit they have. All these issues have to go on this tenant estoppel statement. It has to jibe with what is on the leases. The seller and the buyer all have to sign the tenant estoppel statement. That way, everybody's in agreement with the terms of the tenancy of each tenant and each unit. So when that estoppel statement gets signed by everybody, everybody's in agreement. Yes, this tenant is paying X amount of dollars. This tenant's last rent raise was whenever. This tenant has this parking. This tenant has this many people living there. This tenant has this much deposit. All these things have to be in alignment with the tenant, you as a seller, and the buyer. That way, there's no misunderstandings after the close of escrow when the tenant says, wait a second, my deposit is $2,000 a month, not $1,500. And I can point to the tenant estoppel and say, look, you and your wife signed this estoppel. So it's very important to get those estoppels correct and signed by all parties. This protects you. And just remember, I'm the one as the listing broker that's taking the information from you and the leases and the tenants. I put together the tenant estoppel statement and I make sure that it's correct and I get everybody to sign it. If the tenant looks at it and says something's incorrect, I make the changes on it. So that's another important aspect, getting those tenant estoppel statements correct and signed by all parties, because that's going to protect you. I'm an absolute master of dealing with tenants and getting them on my side and getting them to cooperate with me. I'm a very nice, polite man that is just here to do a job. I understand. I've been a tenant like you. I've been a tenant when a building's been sold when I was living there. So I understand what you're going through. It's a little uncomfortable. It's not fun, but the seller has a reason to sell. I'm a professional. I'm here to do a job. And I really appreciate if you are cooperative with me. I'm going to respect your rights. I'm going to give you plenty of notice when we need to get into your unit. We're going to respect the rent control laws. Like I said, I pride myself in being able to establish a good working relationship with tenants. Now, every once in a while, do I have a problem child tenant? Absolutely. It's very common. And I'm polite, but I'm firm. And I let them know that, there's consequences to being uncooperative when we're trying to do a job. I let tenants know, listen, I'm polite, but I'm firm. I have a job to do. The seller needs to sell. And, your bullshit or whatever is not going to stop me from getting this job done. So that doesn't happen very often, but once in a while it does. But I know how to handle those problem tenants. I like to do an initial walkthrough as soon as you've hired me to list and market and sell your investment property. I want to get a good look at everything. I want to walk the entire building. I want to look for any issues that I see, like roof leaks or damage. And then when I look at the units and I meet the tenants, I always ask them, are there any issues in your unit that have to be corrected? I want to know, hey, I have a leak under my bathroom sink, or hey, I can't open this window. It's stuck in my son's bedroom, or, the cabinet hinges have come loose and the cabinets don't close all the way. So the reason I do that is I want to know the condition of their property. And if there's little things that have to be fixed, I'm going to recommend that we get a handyman out there. I get one of my guys out there to fix all these little issues. I don't want the buyer to come in and look at the unit after they've made an offer and it's accepted. And the tenant's all, oh, my landlord never fixes anything. I got a leak. He hasn't fixed it for a month. I've been telling him. We don't want the tenants going off on the buyer when the buyer's doing the first walkthrough after he's got an accepted offer. So that's why I like to find out if there's anything that has to be fixed. We can proactively take care of those issues so they don't pop up later during the escrow process. So when you hire me to sell your investment property, rest assured, I know how to deal with tenants. I'm very familiar with the rent control laws, and we're going to have a great result. Thanks for watching. This is Derek Ruiz, apartment broker and tax strategist.